Enjoy all episodes of the RCWR Show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. If you or a loved one is suffering with drug or alcohol abuse, please listen. I want for you to get in contact with the Harvey House Manor. The Harvey House Manor is a residential treatment facility that is licensed through the State of California Department of Health Services. They assist men that identify themselves as having substance abuse addictions. They have groups with certified counseling and facilitators to help with art therapy, AA community meetings, nature walks, batting cages, even movie night. They are located in Loma Linda, California. The Harvey House facility takes most PPO insurances. You can check them out on Facebook as well at Harvey House Manor. If you need immediate attention, pick up the phone right now and call 1-800-953-1383 and they can assist you with a new beginning to the road of recovery. It begins right now with a simple phone call to the Harvey House Manor, toll free 1-800-953-1383. That's 1-800-953-1383. One more time, 1-800-953-1383. The Harvey House Manor. Hey ladies, listen up. I know how difficult it can be for you all out there doing what you do best to look oh so jazzy and oh so sexy and beautiful. You need the very best, especially when it comes to makeup, skincare, bath and body, perfumes, jewelry, the latest in fashion, and so much more. My good friend Melanie Duncan from Avon can help you out with all that. Check out her website at avonforevergorgeous.com. That's avonforevergorgeous.com. She offers free direct delivery with orders over $40. She puts great emphasis on personal care, tailor-made. Get this, it's tailor-made to meet all your beauty and cosmetic needs as she provides fantastic one-on-one consultation. So trust me, ladies, you're going to be in good hands. To begin your free consultation, call 917-755-4041. Again, that's 917-755-4041. I'm going to give that to you one more time. 917-755-4041. Hey, are you ready to browse and start shopping now? Or if you need more information, check out her website once again at avonforevergorgeous.com. That's avonforevergorgeous.com. One more time, avonforevergorgeous.com.
Warning, the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders is intended for a mature audience only. The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive. Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond since 2011, you're listening to the RCWR Show. Now, your host, live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Welcome to the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders for this August 2nd, 2017. What is going on? I am the one and only Lee Sanders. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. I know there's probably like a couple of you guys that's like probably going to be checking this out going, where the flying fuck have you been, man? How the hell have you been? What's been going down? I'm going to get into all that in a hot second. But look, I do want to say off the break, I do appreciate those of you that have gone out of your way to check out this week's episode that's coming at you all on the downloads exclusively. So be it you're checking it out on Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, iTunes, however you're checking it out, I do appreciate you all that's going out of your way to check this episode out. Got a lot I need to get off my chest, but I mean, off the break, I would have to say to you all, I do apologize that I've been kind of like MIA for the past, I would say honestly, 2 weeks now
What's really been hitting me is a couple of things. Number one, work has really been getting the best of me, as I have been saying on this show off and on the past couple of weeks. And look, I'm not bitching in any type of way, so please, people, do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I am putting that smile on my face. I'm going out there. I'm doing what I need to do to financially provide a more sustainable, affordable life for myself, my girl, my family. So, I mean, honestly, I feel good when I'm going to my day job. I definitely feel good when I go to my night job. But if you ask me straight up, have I been feeling a little bit of fatigue? Yeah, the fatigue has definitely been kicking in. And on top of all of that, honestly, just the deaths that we've had within the past couple of weeks, it really had kind of took me hard. Not really Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park, although on a more deeper level, when you really take a step back and you go, damn, he really had a connection with Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. These two really were close like that. He really had felt a strong bond with Chris, to the point he took his life on what would have been Chris Cornell's, I believe, 53rd or 54th birthday, right? You go, wow. But then what really had took me just by surprise and was just like, God damn, not again. I tweeted about this on Twitter. I talked about it briefly on Facebook, but the passing of DC's own American television news anchor, Jim Vance. That really was just like, wow. And let me tell you, I had first moved to DC back in 1992. It was in the fall, I want to say. Me and my mom, I still remember vividly when we had first came out here to the DC area, like what basically had led us to coming to the DMV area. We were in California, and it was a rough year. It was a really rough year in California because we had lost within the span of 3 weeks both of my uncles, my mom's brothers. So, like in the first week, my Uncle Len, he had got arrested. This was a case of at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was at a 7-Eleven, and long story short, there were some guys that he did not even know, never laid eyes on them before in his entire life. Two guys came into the damn joint. They robbed the place. They rolled out. Uncle Len's looking at all of this shit that's going down, and he's like, I gotta, get the fuck out of here. This is crazy. Well, the cashier at this point, he's like, well, shit, one of them is still here. So he grabs a gun, unleashes his dog that was locked up in the back. The dog bites Uncle Len's leg, and this basically gives the cashier enough time to draw out his shotgun, hold it on my uncle until the police had came, and the police had thought for sure Uncle Len had something to do with those guys that were robbing the 7-Eleven. So Uncle Len actually ended up doing about, I want to say 5 years in jail, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had lost my uncle about 3 weeks later. Bad drug deal gone wrong at his end. It was just rough. So I remember all that craziness that was going down. We were only out there in California for about a year, but I remember towards the end, like maybe 3 months before we made the move to DC, we were in an IHOP. And I was eating a stack of pancakes, some sausage, some eggs or whatever. I forgot what my mom had. But I remember she had bust out this map and she said to me straight up, she said, look, it's really up to you, but I'm thinking about leaving California. If you want, I can see if maybe you could stay here with Grandma and your Aunt Patty, or we could see if maybe you could go stay with your dad or your grandma in Chicago. It's up to you. And I told my mom, I said, nah, honestly, I want to stay with you. I don't want to leave you alone out here by yourself. I want to be with you. Yes, I was a mama's boy when it's all said and done. So my mom was like, are you really sure? Are you really sure you want to be with me? Because it could be really rough. Just to let you know, it could really be rough. And I told her, I said, I don't care. I just want to be with you. So she goes, okay. So she busts out this map and she's like, all right, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm just going to put my finger wherever my finger lands. That's where we're going to go. No matter what, we're going to try to make it work. And I believe I had moved the map around or whatever while her eyes were closed. And like when her finger landed and she opened her eyes, Washington, D.C. was it. So it is where we had came to back in the fall of 92, going on 93. I would have been 13 later that year, by the end of the year. And I remember one of the first newscasts that I had came across as me and my mom were getting situated in D.C. was NBC News 4. And one of the first news anchors that I had came across was the smooth talking Jim Vance. Jim Vance, it was like, I can't stress it enough. He is like the Walter Cronkite. He is like the Peyton Manning. He was like the Brett Favre. He was like the Muhammad Ali of news reporting. For 45 years, he had been the voice of Washington, D.C. For 45 years, he had been the go-to anchor. When you needed clarity, when you needed the news being presented to you without all the fluff, when you needed it broken down to you in such a way, it didn't make you feel stupid, but at the same time, you felt well informed, you felt educated, you felt enlightened. It didn't come off boring, the information you were receiving in any type of way. You wanted to get it on the up and up. You wanted it real. You wanted that real talk. Jim Vance was that person that would give it to you just like that. He would give it to you raw. And this guy, for as many years as he has spent in D.C., D.C. wasn't even his first home. He wasn't even born and raised here. He actually was born and raised in Pennsylvania, but he had made the move to D.C. all those years back, and he pretty much had been here ever since. I took a strong liking to him when I first saw him in 92. I just really loved the way he presented the news. Everything that I had just described to you guys. And the way he presented it, I had watched like a nice collage of people that offered their thoughts about the passing of Jim Vance. And it was pretty unanimous when cameras were catching up to DC, Maryland, Virginia residents. They all pretty much said the same thing that I always thought about Jim Vance, which was basically the way he presented the news. He did it in such a way you felt as though he was a friend that you were welcoming into your home, 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Sometimes, depending on the news, he would show up with some breaking news. He definitely had his fair share of breaking some news at some very critical moments in modern history here. But he was one of those type of news reporters that he was so sincere in his delivery of the news. It felt very organic, right? And that is just something you cannot teach. That is something that you can't learn in due time. That is just something that you have in you off the break, that just, if anything, as time progresses, it gets even more and more enhanced. And Jim Vance had that gift of the gab. Nobody else could execute it like that. And I tell you, he was also one of those type of newscasters that loved a really good laugh when he saw any type of inaccuracy with a story, or if there was a story that he came across that he was able to poke a little bit of fun at. He went there. He had a very distinct trademark laugh. It really felt as though I had lost a friend, that I had lost a family member, because that's just the way that he came at you. 6 and 11 o'clock. Now, he was winding down in recent years. He had relinquished his 11 p.m. slot to Jim Hanley, and rumblings that I had heard from close sources that were very well connected to Jim Vance. He basically was in his final arrangement / contract agreement with NBC Washington, that basically, as part of this new deal that he did, one of the things that he was going to do, it was like a slow phase out, basically. It wouldn't be a hard phase out. It would be a slow phase out. And one of the first things they did was take 11 p.m. off of his shoulders and give it to Jim Hanley instead. But there was eventually, I think probably by about maybe 2019 at the earliest, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it was 2018, Jim Vance would have been just phased out altogether. But, you know, you knew something was going on with the man's health when you saw him. I remember it was like back in May. Back around May, he made the announcement that he had cancer. And I thought it was so weird when he was letting us know, because he broke this news on the 6 p.m. news, and it was almost towards the end of the broadcast. He broke the news that he was diagnosed with cancer. And you just see the look on Dorian Gensler's face, Carol Maloney. You also see the look of Doug Kramer, the weather guy. And they just have the expressions on their face. They just looked as though they knew a lot more than what Jim was saying to us, the viewers at home. Because one thing that I never heard Jim say during that 6 p.m. broadcast when he was talking about the diagnosis was, I don't want you all to worry. The important thing is we detected this early. It's still in the early stages, so I'm going to make a full recovery. Don't you guys worry. Just wait and see. Never did hear that from Jim. Instead, it was basically, hey, I'm getting my chemotherapy. My chemotherapy. I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing, which is anchoring this seat when my strength will allow it. And honestly, I will see you guys right back here tomorrow. I mean, that's basically what he had said, but you just kind of knew from the facial expressions, especially from Dorian Gensler, that there was more to this story that meets the eye. And then to see one of the last few public appearances that he did, which was at Binge Chili Bowl. Now, just marinate on that for a second. I know a lot of you guys probably have never seen or heard of Jim Vance, but just stop and think about that for a second. We have a really good establishment out here as far as fine dining restaurants goes called Binge Chili Bowl. And you probably know a lot about Binge Chili Bowl thanks to Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby has had a long history, a long relationship with the owners of Binge Chili Bowl that goes back decades. And one of the very first locations that they opened up was in Northwest DC, just off 14th Street and U Street. And I tell you, all the celebrities, everybody over the years has come to Binge Chili Bowl. And you think about the infamous mural that we had going on there. We originally had Chuck Brown. We also had Bill Cosby that was part of that mural until all the craziness had went down with the rape allegations. So they decided, you know what? Nobody is going to stay on the mural. We're just going to start with a clean slate. And part of that new mural now, Jim Vance is up there. So that's how much of a Stapleton, that is how much of an impact he has had on DC culture all of these decades. I mean, just think about that. This guy was almost doing this for 5 decades, right? He called, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say I know he called 7 inaugurations with Dorian Gensler, but I think the number of inaugurations he did total, it might have been 13. Don't quote me on that. I'll say 10 just to be on the safe side, but I believe I'm on when I say 13. So it was definitely a significant blow. It was definitely a significant blow for my girlfriend, who honestly, at one point, her and her mom, they actually had went up to the News 4 studio many years back, and they would constantly visit the people that were up there because my girl's mom actually had dated the cameraman that was responsible for the 6 and 11 o'clock news. I believe he had did some weekends or whatever, so they definitely had took his passing pretty hard. But for me, when I found out about his death, I just automatically was like, God damn it. It really hit me hard, and it just threw me out of a loop. But I tell you, when I get into a situation like that sometimes, and as some of you all probably have found out shockingly, I posted it on Facebook. I told you, I said, I've been dealing with depression. I've been dealing with depression all my life. I just really wasn't sure what the hell was going on all these years. But all the signs indicate that occasionally I suffer from pretty significant depression. It's the type of depression I don't want to be bothered by anybody. I want to keep to myself. I want to stay in this little cocoon. I'm upset. I have this rage. I'm very sad. I'm very confused. It's like all of these things mixed up in one. And usually when I get into that type of a position, it's really hard for me to, okay, you got to shake this off because you got to do this now. Well, okay, you got to put that to the side because you got to, it's just really hard for me to do something like that. And I think for you longtime listeners that's been checking out the show all of these years, you could definitely back me up. When have you ever recalled a time where I've taken more than a week off from doing the show? Unless something was like really going down, and that's pretty much what was going down. So I pretty much had to like find myself out of that rabbit's hole that I was in. So hopefully you guys understand that. Could I have done a little bit of a better job in at least making some type of an announcement? Yeah, I definitely could have, but it was just one of those type of deals. I didn't even really want to be bothered with social media. I had to like slowly find myself getting back into the groove of things one by one, just really taking care of myself, getting myself back to good. It did help a little bit having work to distract me from both ends. So I'm honestly really great to be back in the good state of mind that I'm in today doing the show for you guys. So, hey, I want to give you guys a heads up before we dive into the talk and the very latest of wrestling, entertainment headlines, and beyond. Over the course of the next several weeks, you're going to be hearing a lot more ad breaks. And the main reasons why you're going to be hearing ad breaks is because we have a decent amount of sponsors that, like, literally out of nowhere, while I was dealing with whatever I was dealing with, I have had sponsors left and right hit me up. I've had returning sponsors come back and say, hey, look, I want to work out with you for a couple of more episodes if you don't mind. Really like your stuff. You know, let's do some more promoting. Let's do some more collaborating. So you're going to be hearing a lot more ad breaks. And trust me, you're still going to get your loaded episodes as normal. But you'll notice over the course of this episode and the next several batch of episodes, you're going to be hearing a lot of ad breaks. Now, you're checking this out on the downloads. No problem. You got a very powerful button at your fingertips, which is the fast forward button. But I want for you all to really make sure that you're listening to these sponsors. And if any of them applies to you, a friend or a family member, you basically forward that information and check it out. Because it is because of these sponsors that we're able to work with. Are they largely in part helping to continue to keep the shows like this, the RCWR show with Lee Sanders, and anything else that's being put out there for free? They're helping in a large way to continue to make it be free for you guys to check out. So, and I can't stress it enough, if anybody has free time and if maybe they want to try to help out with the show in some type of way, whether that's be an admin for the Facebook show page or be an admin for the website and all that good jazz, hey, definitely hit me up. You know all the contact info. But in case you don't, I am on Twitter at the RCWR Show. Instagram, YouTube as well, same name, Facebook at, you guessed it, the RCWR Show as well. So without any further ado, man, let's go ahead. Let's get into some stuff, man. So, hey, I checked out Monday's WWE Raw that had came to us from Pittsburgh, PA. Shout out to those of you, by the way, that had took part in our Raw interactive poll that we do every single Monday night at the conclusion of WWE Raw, where we ask you, what did you think of this week's Raw? And you have about 3 days left to cast your vote if you like. So far, taking the lead, we have 59% of you all that are staying in the middle, whereas 23% of you gave this week's Raw a thumbs down. Meanwhile, 18% of you gave it a thumbs up. Honestly, I thought it was a decent show. I wouldn't say it was a terrible show, but there were a lot of moments during this episode that was just real head-scratching moments for me when it's all said and done. So off the break, I love how the show had opened up. as we had basically saw Kurt Angle. I thought that was smooth booking right there, because you're in Pittsburgh, PA. Hey, Kurt Angle's home turf. Loved it. Loved it that Kurt Angle came out. Loved the great pop that he had received from the crowd. I also love the fact that, when he did that, once again, I'm kind of kicking back and I'm saying to myself, man, when are we going to see Kurt Angle bump heads with Brock Lesnar? We have yet to see Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle in the same ring together since Kurt Angle has come back to the WWE. So, like, when the hell are we going to get it? So you have Kurt Angle basically out there and he's saying, hey, we're going to have a really great show tonight. One of the main events that you're going to be seeing, it's a triple threat match. Roman Reigns taking on Braun Strowman, taking on Samoa Joe. We're going to get a little bit of a taste in a preview, if you will, of what's going to be happening at SummerSlam on August 20th, as all three of these men will be facing Brock Lesnar in a fatal four-way match to determine who's going to be the WWE Universal Champion. So Kurt Angle just basically, hey, great show for tonight. We're pretty much going, okay, all right, Kurt, great. But then the moment finally happens, the moment that we have been waiting for, which is Brock Lesnar finally getting in the ring, sharing the same air of space and time with the Raw GM. I've been waiting for that for like the longest time, and I love the fact that Brock Lesnar did not even acknowledge Kurt Angle. I'm kind of going, all right, so like, what's going to happen here? Is Brock maybe going to extend a handshake, or is Brock maybe going to say something? Nah, Paul Heyman was pretty much the one that was out there doing all of the talking, but the main bullet points that raised my eyebrow had to do with Paul Heyman saying to Kurt Angle, so you realize that the only way you can take the Universal Championship off of my client Brock Lesnar is to basically put him in this triple threat match. You're basically trying to guarantee a new WWE Universal Champion at SummerSlam. I see what you're trying to do. Rather than have Brock Lesnar defend against Joe, or rather than have him face off against Roman, or have him face off against Braun. No. You want to go on ahead and you want to let this be a fatal four-way match. Okay. But you know what? When it's all said and done, my client is going to be victorious. I am so confident that my client, Brock Lesnar, is going to walk out of SummerSlam still the WWE Universal Champion, that if Brock Lesnar is not able to get the job done, Brock Lesnar will leave the WWE. I'm kicking back, and as I'm hearing this, I'm going, okay, this is the most stupidest thing I have heard, because just feel me for a second, and I don't want people thinking that I'm nitpicking, I'm being oversensitive. Just feel me for a minute, all right? So, first off, we all know that UFC and the WWE last year, they had that really great collaboration. I thought that was a great partnership that they did, all right? Where we saw Brock Lesnar come back at UFC 203 to take on Mark Hunt. Yeah, we had the controversial shit that went down afterwards, as we found out Brock wasn't exactly clean, but for what it was worth, it was still a great collaboration. Both respected companies made some decent money, got some really good press off of that, at least until the stuff had came about with Lesnar, illegal drugs, whatever, right? So we hear, of course, what had went down with John Jones, right? John Jones issuing that challenge, Brock Lesnar saying, hey, be careful what you wish for, young man, you might get it. We're hearing the reports that's out there that Brock Lesnar, John Jones, they're going to be fighting. UFC, they're struggling right now. They're trying to do whatever they can to bring in those ticket prices. They're trying to get in those pay-per-view buy rates. They're trying to get as much money as they can. So they're brainstorming on some ideas. So we got the talk with Brock Lesnar possibly going back to the UFC. So you got all of this going down. You got Brock Lesnar saying what he was saying to John Jones, right? His message to John Jones. So you keep all that in mind and you go into this situation where Brock Lesnar says what he didn't say it, but Paul Heyman says what he says for that stipulation. And you're going, wait a minute, this is kind of like ass backwards. Like, if anything, shouldn't Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman be saying this at SummerSlam? Like maybe at the conclusion of a new Universal Champion being crowned, and Brock Lesnar basically is pissed off. You show him backstage saying, man, this is a bunch of bullshit. It took three of them. This is bullshit, right? Wouldn't it make more sense for Brock Lesnar to be really pissed off, be really infuriated that that type of bullshit had went down, right? He was confident that he was going to get the job done, but like the odds were just so stacked against him, right? And you could let it be a situation where Brock Lesnar just feels that this was a personal thing, if you will, from Kurt Angle, that there's still a little bit of resentment from several years back when they were locking it up and all that, right? You know, Kurt Angle just trying to find a way to stick it to Brock Lesnar or whatever. Wouldn't it make more sense for it to go down in that type of fashion? I just thought the way that was executed, it was silly. Now, on the one hand, you could kind of redeem yourself for this segment that we had got, and you know, it brings up a very interesting question, which is, well, what happens, Lee, if a situation occurs where Brock Lesnar retains his Universal title? Like, what happens then? What if Brock Lesnar is supposed to be going in to the UFC to do this match with Jon Jones? Like, what's going to happen? How do you explain Brock Lesnar's absence? Do you maybe have Brock Lesnar just say, hey, look, there's no more competition for me that's here. I don't face the very best. Well, he hasn't really faced the best over on SmackDown, but you go with the argument that Brock Lesnar has faced the very best that there is and that he's basically done. There's no more competition that's out there. There's nobody worth his day and time. And he's basically tired of all the politics, all the BS that he's been dealing with as of late as the Universal Champion. And does he just maybe relinquish the title that way? Do you maybe have him drop some type of a pipe bomb freaking moment of a promo where he basically says, fuck the WWE, and he goes back to the UFC? And the fans believe that what they're getting is a scenario where, man, Brock Lesnar's really shooting on the WWE. There's no way he's going to be coming back. Do you maybe kind of go in that direction? I like that idea, but I tell you another idea that I really like. I like the idea personally of a scenario occurring where maybe Jon Jones shows up. He's already said he's interested. I would love to see Jon Jones show up on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Maybe it could be some type of a scenario where Jon Jones and his entourage are sitting at ringside. They're actually there the entire night. And maybe a situation goes down where Paul Heyman comes out, where Brock Lesnar, you do a little something, and legitimately, when it's all said and done, Brock Lesnar goes on over to Jon Jones and his entourage, talks some mad trash. Jon Jones just clocks him in the face, legitimately. Lesnar's busting up, bleeding or whatever. You got yourself a nice little freaking brawl right then and there that eventually spills on over back to the UFC. And then maybe you could see a scenario occur where Brock Lesnar tries to call out Jon Jones. He's at ringside or whatever, watching a Jon Jones fight or whatever like that. I would love to see some type of a situation like that go down. Would WWE and UFC, would they be able to really sit down and hammer out something like that that could truly be beneficial to both camps? I'm not really sure if they've gotten to that point where they'd be willing to collaborate like that. But in my perfect world, I definitely would do a cross collaboration like that. I mean, if Spider-Man Homecoming taught me anything, it's that if you can really put your differences to the side and come to sit down at the same table to basically figure out a really cool way to not only make the best out of an awesome partnership, but to make the most money as humanly possible. Like, that's what Spider-Man Homecoming had taught me. When you get Sony sitting down with Marvel Studios and all that, it's like anything is possible if you really just have the temperament and you have the patience and you're really trying to be about that money. So only time will tell, but there's so many different avenues that we really could have gone down to really tell the proper type of story. But I thought it was ass backwards what we had got from Lesnar on Monday night. Another thing that I thought was kind of like, I don't really care about this match. Yes, the triple threat match between Joe, Strowman, Reigns, it was good, but there was nothing of significant value that went into that match. I was telling my friends weeks ago, I said, look, man, probably what's going to end up happening, you're probably going to have a situation occur where you get a triple threat match to determine who's going to be the number one contender to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Hey, Brock Lesnar shows up. He's got unfinished business with all of those guys, right? Why not just have him show up, F5 destroy the hell out of all of those guys, and then you get yourself a fatal four-way match? I thought for sure maybe you were going to kind of go in that type of a direction. Now, some people may feel that's a little bit cliche or whatever like that, but for me, seeing the triple threat match, okay, that's great that we're getting this on free TV, but there's nothing of significant value that's behind it other than bragging rights to the victor. That's really it. So for me, I always made the argument that WWE doesn't need to rush so fast. You know, you got like about, it's only August 2nd. You got about 3.5 more weeks to go until SummerSlam. It's like, why rush it? Tell the story. Take your time, right? But, so, it was a good match, don't get me wrong. It was a damn good triple threat match, of which we had saw Roman Reigns pick up the win. But without any real significant, okay, this is what's going on. Not to mention, I did not like the placement of that main event match. Because basically, to close out Monday's WWE Raw, it would be, let me make sure I'm understanding this right. It would be Big Cass taking on the Big Show. I get it, man. I get it. The powers that be in the WWE, they see a really bright, prosperous career for Big Cass as a singles guy, but to put him in that type of a position, my God, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends and coworkers groaned over the fact that it was Big Cass and the Big Show closing out Monday's WWE Raw. Not so much hate on Big Cass. From what I've heard, hey, a lot of potential with Big Cass. Yeah, he's doing okay so far, but program with Big Show, people they really didn't care for that. Big Cass had won his match, by the way, DQ. Closing moments of that matchup, we had saw Big Show finally come about as he was selling a leg injury, because Cass was focusing on the Big Show's leg majority of the match. Show had tried to fight off Cass, but Cass had connected with a big boot to the jaw to drop Big Show again. Cass would then go to the second rope, came down, Big Show chops him out of the air. Show then goes for the choke slam, and he also does a big splash in the corner. Cass comes right back with a boot, big boot, to floor Show. Cass then waits for Show to get up, but Enzo hits the ring and attacks Cass for the disqualification. After the bell, Cass knocks Enzo off his back, floors him. Cass talks trash to Enzo about disrespecting him. This pretty much had allowed Big Show to recover. Big Show then dropped him with the knockout punch that basically had sent him and Enzo, because I remember Enzo, I think, was trying to come around too, and we're led to believe like this punch was so devastating, this punch was so freaking strong that it just basically the momentum had sent Enzo flying as well or whatever. But It was okay. I mean, nothing really spectacular to. Yeah, but really, that's how you're going to close out Monday's WWE Raw? I would have preferred to see this match before the triple threat. Quite honestly, I would have preferred to see that. Interesting development came from the Bayley Nia Jax match. Bayley is actually dealing with a shoulder injury. They are saying that they're going to announce her status for SummerSlam on this coming Monday's WWE Raw. So at this point, not really sure if this is part of a story angle or what, but we'll know a little bit more as it continues to develop here. But word of mouth right now, we'll know the very latest on Monday's WWE Raw. I would like to believe that if it's a situation where Bayley's not going to be able to compete, the announcement would have been made already. So the fact that they are going to be extending this to Monday's WWE Raw kind of says to me that it is nothing more than part of a storyline. At least that's the vibe that I'm honestly getting. Also, the problem that I have with the whole Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. So Seth Rollins has been trying for, it feels like almost a month now, to get on the good side of Dean Ambrose, but Dean's not having it. I'm one of those type of people, call me old school, but if I'm at a club and I see a really fine ass looking girl that I'm interested in macking to, I'm trying to put the moves on her, I'm trying to get those digits and take it from there, and she turns me down, I'm the type of person, if I really find that woman to be attractive, I'm gonna try to pursue her probably 2-3 times. After the third time, I take a hint. It just ain't happening. I chalk it up as a loss and I keep it moving along. So when I really think about what's going on here with Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and for Seth to just continue to try to make some type of peace with Dean Ambrose, if Dean's not having it, I have a simple solution for this. Why not Seth Rollins just say to Dean Ambrose, hey Dean, look man, I've tried a couple of times. I'm sorry that you feel the way that you feel. But you know what, man? I tell you what, going forward, you just stay out of my business and I'll definitely stay out of your business. If you see me get jumped by, I don't care if it's The Miz and his entourage or Bray Wyatt, I don't care who it is. It could be freaking Doink the Clown for all I care. Stay out of my business. I'll definitely stay out of your business. If you feel that way, you feel like you can't trust me, you're not interested in teaming up again, that's fine. You just go your way, do your thing, stay out of my biz. I'll do the same for you. I'll extend to you that same courtesy. No harm, no foul done. I would set it up just like that. So I'm looking at this particular angle and I'm kind of going, what's the end game here? What is truly going to be the end game here? And honestly, the vibe that I'm kind of getting right now is I think Dean may be the one to go heel. I think Dean may be the one to just snap. And I think he's going to just retribution, the fact that he was stabbed in the back by Seth Rollins and all that. I think when it's all said and done, Dean Ambrose is going to be in some type of a position. I can see it happening. If it doesn't happen by this coming Monday's WWE Raw, maybe the week after that, but I can basically see some type of a scenario. Now see, as I'm telling you guys this, y'all got to bear in mind that we may have a case of storyline stupidity. Because anybody remember a couple of weeks ago, Seth Rollins had said to Dean Ambrose, hey man, if it makes you feel any good, if you want to get that hit that I did to you, remember I took that steel chair to your back. If it makes you feel any better just to get it out of your system, here's a steel chair. My back is to you. Let me have it. Give it to me as many times as you want. If it'll help you get it all out of your system, go for it. And we didn't see Dean go that route. Yet for some weird reason, and I'm hoping that I am truly wrong, I'm really getting the impression that we're going to see some type of a scenario occur where maybe it's going to be Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, in a handicap match against The Miz, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel. And when it counts the most, a situation occurs where, it's kind of interesting because on the one hand, you got the entourage, right? And then you got Sheamus and Cesaro as well. So it's kind of interesting where this is going. But, I mean, if you ask me straight up where this is possibly leading into, I could honestly see some type of a scenario occur where maybe it's going to be The Miz and his entourage against Jason Jordan, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. Jason Jordan would definitely benefit from that because he needs a little bit of a rub off right now. And I thought he handled himself pretty well in that Miz segment, but I'll get back to that in a second. But I'm just looking at what could possibly be the end game here. I see some type of a scenario occurring where Dean Ambrose, when it counts the most, and Seth Rollins is depending on him, Dean just screws him. And I think it's ultimately going to set up some type of a deal where Dean Ambrose just does the dirty deeds on Seth Rollins as Seth wants to try to talk it out, air out the grievances or whatever like that. Dean just freaking snaps. And there you go, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. I just see something like that going down, but I tell you, given the way how WWE is going to try to play this out, there's going to be some storyline stupidity there because a lot of people are going to be able to go back and really connect the dots. So I'm curious if WWE is going to really have a game plan and plug in those gaps. Otherwise, yeah, we're going to be exploiting the hell out of it. But if you ask me the direction of SummerSlam right now, I think most likely it's going to be The Miz and his entourage against Jason Jordan, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. That's the safe bet. I've been looking at what's been happening with Jason Jordan now for the past couple of weeks, and yeah, the ladies probably like him. He's got a nice looking face, nice looking body. Yeah, I'm sure the ladies love him. Young girls, they're probably excited about him and everything. But the verdict is still out on Jason Jordan. You can just tell by the reactions that he's been getting ever since he first came up on the Raw roster. It's kind of like, okay, all right, we get this story arc with Kurt Angle. Okay, well, let's see what you're about now. And the verdict, the jury is still out on Jason Jordan, but so far it's been kind of lackluster. And if you ask me, like, where do I ultimately see things going with Jason Jordan, I think a scenario is probably going to occur, maybe not right now, because it comes off to me that management really wants him to get over as a babyface, but I don't really think that is registering well. I think ultimately what's probably going to have to happen is you're going to see a scenario where Kurt maybe tries to come in, give Jason Jordan a little bit of some tough love, some fatherly advice on the direction that Jordan needs to go with his career. But I could see a scenario happening where Jason Jordan comes into a little bit of a funk. And as a result of coming into that funk, he's on a losing streak. And I can just see everything culminate in Jason just being so frustrated that he finally just says, you know, all these years, you know, I felt as though I have been chasing after a ghost, and I really have been. I've been chasing after your ghost, and, you know, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of trying to live up to these expectations that you and the WWE universe have set forth for me. No more on this day going forward. Truly, I am my own man. I see some type of a scenario going down where Jason Jordan ends up attacking Kurt Angle and shelves him as the Raw general manager for a couple of weeks. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts, when it's all said and done, that one of Kurt Angle's first matches back in the WWE, I'm going to say probably by Survivor Series time. So that puts us around what, November, guys? I believe Kurt Angle is going to be back in the ring and he's going to be taking on Jason Jordan. And I think it's all in the name of really helping excel the Jason Jordan character. I think what we're seeing right now is just honestly we're just riding off of that big revelation from a couple of weeks ago. But I think long-term wise, I truly believe that's the plan that WWE has in mind. And if you ask me straight up, looking at the current landscape, at least on the Raw side of things, they could use another major heel. I personally feel. Jason Jordan, I think, would be better in the direction of a heel. I think we can all be in agreement right now. His promos aren't really, they're not that good. They aren't the best. Can he get better in due time? We'll see. But I think long term, that's probably the direction that's happening right now. So we'll see. Other than that, as far as Monday's WWE Raw, it was pretty average. It was a pretty, there's really nothing I could take away from it. It just felt like a average type of episode. So I actually agree with the results right now that's coming in, where you got an overwhelming 59% that's staying right in the middle. If you guys disagree with that, or you haven't let your voices be heard, cast your vote now. The polling on Twitter is open for another 3 days. That's Twitter at the RCWR Show. Let's do this. Let's take a pause. I'd like for you to hear a good word from our sponsors, just some of our sponsors for tonight's episode. And when we come on back, we will definitely talk about some key highlights with regards to this week's SmackDown. We'll also dive into the very latest in wrestling and entertainment headlines. We are just getting started here, man. You are checking out the RCWR Show for August 2nd, 2017. We will be coming right back.
Hey friends, Lee here. Check this out. For as little as $49.99, you could be in business for yourself today, right at this very moment. Now I want you to imagine owning your own store that offered beautiful personalized products where you don't have a lease, employees, tons of inventory, and rigid retail hours. Instead, you will have a team behind you taking care of daily operations and letting you focus on sales, as commission sales are 25% of everything sold in your store. Additional bonuses based on sales volume. Now, I also want for you to imagine having your own web store, an incredible inventory, and flexible hours. I ask you, how much would you pay to invest in your future? Well, you can do it right now with an ambassador startup kit and registration that is only $49.99 and includes $70 in free merchandise. I want for you to act now and receive an additional $30 off in free merchandise by heading over to www.monogram@home.com/become-ambassador.html. That's www.monogram@home.com/become-ambassador.html. One more time, www.monogram@home.com/become-ambassador.html. Are you tired of being denied the things you need in life due to poor credit? Call Back on Track Financial Services. They work with you to rebuild a strong credit file and remove inaccurate, erroneous, negative items from your credit report. Contact them today for a free consultation and let them get you back on track. Back on Track Financial Services. Toll free 1-800-451-0993.
Once again, that's 1-800-451-0993. One more time, 1-800-451-0993. Back on track, Financial Services. The new TNA is coming to Patreon, and that's TNA as in twerk and ass. Go to patreon.com/TNA, and for as little as $3 a month, become a rewards member of the newest, hottest, twerkiest fan page on the web and or on your mobile device. For all things twerk, go to patreon.com/TNA or download the Patreon mobile app either from the Apple Store or Google Play. Be a part of the hippest community, get rewards, and see all the girls and the hot twerk action. We'll be continuously adding content daily from launch on August 11th at midnight Pacific time. Don't miss out and be a part of the party. Make it rain on August 11th at midnight Pacific time. This is your personal invite to the launch at patreon.com/TNA. Once again, the Twerk Show launches on August 11th at midnight Pacific time. Head on over to patreon.com/TNA. And again, on August 11th at midnight Pacific time, that's when they launch. Make it rain, y'all. Have a awesome twerking ass day. And we are back. We are talking WWE SmackDown Fallout for this week. Saw a pretty solid matchup between the United States Champion AJ Styles retain his United States Championship in a solid contest with Kevin Owens, but it came with a little bit of controversy as towards the end of the match we saw Owens end up hitting two big mule kicks to AJ that sent him flying to the mat. Owens would then swing at AJ, and it was a serious botch move because I'm telling you, my main man over at Botchamania, I know he's having a field day with this one, clear as day. And I tell you, given where the cameraman was positioned, you could see it as clear as day that Kevin Owens did not hit the referee whatsoever. He just basically hit air, and the referee just like he just had like a 5-second delay. It felt like selling the hell out of that wild swing from Owens, but in either case, the referee supposedly gets knocked down. Owens then hits a super kick on Styles. He would then try to look for his trademark pop-up powerbomb, but AJ rolls him up for the win. Now, after the match, we see Owens, who is just belligerent, and he's screaming, actually ranting at JBL, saying that his shoulder was up. AJ leaves with the title as Owens continues to yell at the referee in the corner. Trainer actually comes to check up on the referee. We pretty much go backstage where we see SmackDown General Manager Daniel Bryan with the Commissioner Shane McMahon and referee Mike Chioda, the one that had sold that poor punch out of nowhere, out of thin air, and they basically admit that a bad call was made. Mike Chioda says that he was really shaken up. He really could not see out of his eyes, especially the one where he got hit. And we see Kevin Owens, he's not accepting this apology. He wants to know what is going to be done to rectify the situation. We basically see Shane McMahon say, hey, look, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get another title shot at Summerslam. That's not good enough for Owens, as he's getting sick and tired of referees that are not able to do their job, and they're basically very frail to the point you could just blow at them and they just collapse. He wants a competent person in the ring for his match for the United States title. Daniel Bryan actually comes up with a really solid idea and volunteers Shane McMahon to be the referee for Kevin Owens' match against AJ Styles for the United States title. Owens is not cool with this, but Shane McMahon doubles down and says, look, you want your shot for the United States Championship, right? Well, if you want it, this is the circumstances you're going to have to accept it for. Take it or leave it. Kevin Owens leaves very frustrated. takes the offer, so that match is pretty much set. Other than that, another major highlight of SmackDown for this week, honestly, had to do with the main event match where we saw Shinsuke Nakamura take on John Cena, number one contenders match, where the winner would go on to face Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. I tell you what, this matchup, I was really concerned about it from so many levels. On the one hand, there was a part of me that was looking at this matchup wondering if somebody was going to interfere in it. I was thinking maybe a Baron Corbin because of his past history with Nakamura. I kind of felt as though maybe at some point Corbin was going to maybe get involved. But then yet at the same time, I'm looking at this match saying, hey, it's not every day we see a really classic matchup, first time ever in the WWE. John Cena, Nakamura locking it up. Really don't want there to be interference, but at the same time, this is a main event match that's being thrown away for free on television. I had so many mixed emotions, but at the end of the day, what I ultimately wanted was no interference, and I'm happy that we did not get any interference in this matchup. I gotta tell you, there was a really ugly moment that had came during this bout where we actually saw Nakamura drop John Cena on his head. I mean, if you did not see this matchup, you actually got to go out of your way and you actually got to pull this matchup in its entirety on YouTube, or maybe you can just find that one particular spot. And I tell you, I was like, when I saw that spot go down with John Cena, because that man literally got broken in half. Only a athlete. And I know we've had so many people over the years, oh, pro wrestling is fake, it's this, it's that. Look, are the matches predetermined? Yes. Is it choreographed? Yes. But real, legitimate accidents do happen in that ring. And I tell you, me, the average person that does not work out religiously, that doesn't do any type of body strengthening whatsoever, would not be able to walk away from the type of spot that John Cena had took. And I tell you, for John Cena to continue to soldier through, you could tell Nakamura was like, because at one point during the match he actually says to Cena, are you okay? And they just continue to go at it. Shocking moment as we saw Nakamura become the new number one contender. I don't know how many of you guys were a bit stunned by that. I definitely was stunned because I thought for sure John Cena was going to be the one to advance to SummerSlam to face Jinder Mahal. Just on paper, the matchup, the storyline, given everything that's been going on with John Cena since he's come back, the 4th of July edition of SmackDown, he's pretty much been doing this whole Captain America meets the Patriot type of deal, U.S. agent, right? So I was strongly under the impression John Cena was going to be taking on Jinder, but no, it'd actually be Nakamura that would get the job done. Closing moments of this matchup, we saw John Cena, he tried to go for another AA after successfully completing one, but he wanted to add more insult to injury. But we saw Nakamura, he quickly was able to get out of it and turned it into a guillotine in the middle of the ring. And there was a little bit more back and forth. We pretty much saw Nakamura plant Cena on the back of his neck, as I mentioned earlier. He then connected with the Kinshasa for the pin and for a shot at the WWE title at SummerSlam. Post-match was really awesome, as we saw Nakamura. He had apologized to John Cena. You can see it clear as day. Nakamura says sorry. John Cena grabs his arm, raises up in the air, and says, don't be sorry. It was just really a awesome class act, and anybody that has been a long-time listener of my show knows how critical I have been of John Cena really since the show's inception, but I really did not start loosening up on John Cena, honestly, until he came back. It feels like maybe 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, where he was going after the United States Championship for the very first time, that's when I really had started to take a different light and a strong liking to John Cena. And say what you will with regards to John Cena. I know he has his critics. I know there are a lot of people that really just can't stand his guts, whether it's for personal reasons or whatever. But when you just really kind of take a step back and look at the men that John Cena has put over in just 3 years, he has put over guys like Seth Rollins. He has put over guys like AJ Styles. He has put over guys like Kevin Owens. He's put over guys like Nakamura. Hell, Brock Lesnar may not be a young cat, but he definitely had put Brock Lesnar over when Lesnar had first came back to the WWE those couple of years back. Say what you will about John Cena, but when it counts the most, within recent years, he has really been delivering to the point, I feel, when it's all said and done, when it comes time for him to lock it up with Roman Reigns, I definitely feel in my heart of hearts, he's going to do the deed. There's not going to be any type of controversy involved whatsoever. I just look back on the match that we had on SmackDown this week, and I couldn't help but really take notice of the crowd. They were very stunned. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts they were under the impression that John Cena was going to be the one to advance to SummerSlam. I mean, don't get it wrong, especially like when you go back and you look at the reactions from the crowd on this week's SmackDown. There was like pleasant surprise and joy for Nakamura, but it wasn't like a unanimous, to the point. You notice when Nakamura comes out, everybody is singing his theme song and all that, right? And then maybe there's one or two little spots in the match where the crowd is behind Nakamura or whatever. Was it a great matchup that these two guys had? Yes, and the crowd was definitely into it. But as far as the finish to the match, I don't think the fans really believed that Nakamura was going to win this cleanly in the middle of the ring. But no controversy, no ref getting bumped, nobody coming out, lights not going out, no type of controversy whatsoever. Nakamura wins cleanly in the middle of the ring. And honestly, I like to see more stuff like this happen in the WWE. Now, if you ask me for my 2 cents going forward, this definitely had solidified Nakamura into the main event picture, I personally feel, because for a guy to be able to go in there, very first rodeo round, defeat John Cena, that's some good serious bragging rights on paper when you just really think about it from a booking standpoint. Not to mention, after probably the first handful of weeks that Nakamura was on the SmackDown roster, it just really seemed as though he was lacking. It really seemed like the momentum that he had when he was down in NXT was just evaporated just in a mere handful of weeks upon being on the main SmackDown roster. So he was pretty much in limbo for the past couple of months, I definitely would say. This victory, I felt, helped him tremendously as far as momentum goes into SummerSlam. But for those of you that are expecting for Nakamura to defeat Jinder Mahal for that championship, it's gonna happen. But I am calling it right now. This is your SummerSlam Call That Match Pick preview. I feel that Baron Corbin is going to throw a monkey wrench into all that. And I feel he's going to come in after a hard-fought victory by Nakamura. End of days, that's pretty much going to be it. Baron Corbin is going to be leaving SummerSlam as your new WWE champion. Remember, you heard it here first. I'm going on record for that. But overall, pretty decent edition of SmackDown. It kind of felt like Raw. It kind of felt like a average episode, give or take. Really, it was just about that main event match and the United States Championship match. But I gotta tell you, I'm definitely looking forward to SummerSlam. It kind of goes back to what I was saying a couple of weeks ago about the WWE in general, which is I wish that they would take more risk. I wish that they would jump out there and experiment more. Try to shake things up a bit because it's summertime. And I know some people aren't really buying the whole it's summertime, but if you really stop and think about it, majority of folks are making their summer vacation plans. They're getting out, they're enjoying the weather, they're hanging out with friends, they're hanging out with family. They're not really spending as much time indoors. So you know what? For WWE, honestly, this is the time that they really should be experimenting right now and try to see what's working, what's not working, try to get some type of a game plan on what needs to happen for the fall and setting up Survivor Series and then in setting up the Royal Rumble, right? So I'm really ecstatic for Nakamura. Big fan of his, have been since New Japan Pro Wrestling. Can't wait to see how things are going to be playing out at SummerSlam. But given everything that I just predicted, I'm honestly not going to be surprised if it lays out that way. Would not be disappointed whatsoever. If anything, it would just throw more fuel to the fire of the feud that's been going on with Baron Corbin and Nakamura for these past several weeks now. So I'm all fine for it.
Do you love the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders? Then support the show that's currently ranked in the top 10 shows on Spreaker.com in the wrestling category, on Patreon.com, and get exclusive access to new original content including our 30 with Lee series, bonus and vintage RCWR episodes, exclusive guest interviews, prize giveaways, online community chat, live show call-in features, and so much more. Support the RCWR Show on Patreon.com/RCWR Show. Once again, that's Patreon.com/RCWR Show. The RCWR Show with Lee Sanders, entertaining you since 2011.
Hey, for you Sami Zayn fans, he gave an update on his hashtag Sammy for Syria campaign for mobile clinics. He noted that they have raised so far, get this, more than $40,000 in 3 weeks since launching the campaign. So if you guys would like to learn a little bit more info on that, check out www.sammyforsyria.com. That's sammyforsyria.com. Meantime, WWE has an interesting poll that's up asking fans if they believe Paul Heyman when he says Brock Lesnar will leave the WWE if he drops the Universal title at SummerSlam. As it stands right now that we're doing this recording for you all, 67% voted yes if he loses. The Beast Incarnate's next fight looks as though it's definitely going to be inside the octagon against John Jones. So the rest, meantime, they voted no, thinking that Paul Heyman is bluffing. Even if he loses, the Beast will be back inside a WWE ring sooner rather than later. So that is where that poll stands right now. I thought that was pretty interesting. And just to recap on a incident that had occurred a couple of weeks ago, I know you all had heard about this. Well, Karen Jarrett had finally spoke upon it this week as she was asked about a reported altercation that went down between her and Braun Strowman at a Nashville bar a few weeks back during a conference call with the media earlier today. She made it pretty clear, and I quote, "Oh my goodness, I can clear the air. It was a silly incident where you have two people in the wrestling business playing their characters, being silly, and it got blown way out of proportion." Now, our good friends over at the WrestlingInc.com website, as well as the Wrestling Observer, they reported that Braun Strowman had ended up getting on his knees and apologizing to Karen Jarrett after Karen approached him for an autograph for her son. Braun was reportedly very rude to Karen, not knowing who she was, which caused her to cut a loud promo and threatened to tell Kurt Angle, the father of the son, that is a big Strowman fan. Braun then apologized after he learned who Karen was. And so when I first heard that story, I didn't want to even talk about that story because I thought that was like so freaking hilarious that like it just no way possibly was it true. Like I thought it was a bunch of BS, but apparently this is actually legit. Karen had went on to state that, and after the fact, the two of us are still in the news and it's still being talked about. That's a question that you took the time to ask. I think is hysterical, to be honest with you. It's silliness. It's the wrestling business. We had fun with it, and somebody took it and turned it into something more than it was. So as all this is going down, you got another story that's coming from PW Insider. They have a very different version of the story that is saying that Karen was belligerent to Braun, and that a witness had told PW Insider that it was just a drunken conversation between two drunk people in a bar that got loud and nothing more. So, I mean, that is what it is. Take it for what it's worth. But me, honestly, I'm not feeding too much into it. When it's all said and done, you got to go back to that episode of Monday Night Raw. It came to us from Nashville. A lot of people had thought that maybe Dixie Carter was going to be the one to be Kurt Angle's big secret. We all know that it wasn't. You also know that TNA has a headquarters out there. WWE stars, TNA stars, they did meet up before and after the show. So, I mean, I'm not honestly feeding too much into this, and neither should you all. That would be my advice. Honestly, take what you hear with a grain of salt. Enough said. For you TNA fans, Brooke Tessmacher, Miss Tessmacher, Brooke Adams, she recently did an interview with the USA Today's For the Win blog, where she had discussed going from being a pro wrestler to a mother, and she talked about the day that she had found out she was pregnant. She also talked about what's going on with her current status as far as whether or not she's going to be returning to the ring. The way she's talking right now, she's really not sure, because on the one hand, she loves and relishes in the fact that she is a mother and she wants to be there for her baby, because it's the early years right now. It's the most critical. On the other hand, she still has that itch to want to get back inside of the ring and throw it down with the best of them. But then there's that fear of, well, what if she gets injured? And then if she gets injured, it's kind of like, how will she be able to provide for her child? How will she be able to do her part in providing for her family? Not only that, but just, does she really want to get back in the ring? Period. So there's a lot of mixed emotions that she has right now. I mean, honestly, if I could offer Brooke any type of friendly advice, just the fact that you have that thought in the back of your head, what if I go in and I do this match? What if I get in the ring and what if I injure myself? Just the fact that you're already thinking that, for the time being, you should not get back into the ring. I would not get back in the ring until you are able to have that confidence that you had before you got pregnant and welcome your child into the world. I honestly would take my time and try to get that confidence back, because let me tell you something, man, and I've heard this firsthand from close friends and family, that once you have a child, the world as you know it goes away. Like, the world as you know it completely changes, because now everything is about that baby or those babies that you're bringing into the world. Your perspective, your whole outlook in life, things you never thought before are now just crossing in your mind. So the fact that Brooke is kind of at this mental state currently, honestly, the best advice I would give her, if she were to even ask her fans or whatnot, or just ask for solid advice in general. Honestly, I remember Tessmacher saying a while back she was maybe going to pursue her degree. I remember her saying in an interview a while back, at least about a year ago, it feels like almost, that she was going to try to go back to college, get her degree. I honestly would focus on that because, I mean, wrestling is not forever. When it's all said and done, you got to have something to fall back on, and a very good, solid education, having a degree, a major in something, that'll help you go a long, long ways. So, I mean, if you are getting that itch to wrestle, or you just want to be surrounded with the wrestling community, go out there, do your occasional conventions, do some autograph signings and all that. Maybe the immediate future for Brooke Tessmacher needs to be doing occasional tag matches and all that. Who knows? But I always thought it was kind of weird that Brooke Tessmacher was at one point with the WWE and WWE releases her. I always thought it was really weird that they had released her. It always rubbed me the wrong way. I said rubbed. But no, seriously, like, it always struck me kind of odd that they released her from the WWE, because that was a girl just beautifully stunning, and honestly, under the WWE umbrella, I thought had a pretty good long career ahead of her, especially when you just consider in TNA. I know she gets kind of a bad rep because a lot of people, they feel like she can't really wrestle worth a damn. But I can honestly say, for the tenure that I've been able to watch Brooke's career in WWE and then coming into TNA, honestly, if I had to just really pinpoint it, I would have to say before she had went out due to paternity leave, she was paternity, maternity, all that good jazz, pregnant. She honestly was really finally starting to come into her own as a wrestler, and it just really came off as if whatever progress she had made, it was like she had to start back from scratch. So, but it always struck me weird that her career in the WWE just ended, and she wasn't even the one that wanted out. WWE was the ones that just basically gave her the pink slip. You guys been hearing about this clusterfuck that's been going on with the Super Nintendo NES Mini? I said Super Nintendo NES Mini. I should just say Super Nintendo Mini or Super NES Mini, right? Walmart, they fucked this up big time. They prematurely, it was an error on their part. They had released units up for pre-order. I think they said like a week or 2 weeks early that it had went live, and it wasn't supposed to. So a lot of fans had thought that they were scoring on a really sweet deal, but then when they went to bed only to wake up in the morning, they find out, hey, that Walmart pre-order, no mas, it was an error. And there were so many people that were pissed off. So that happened to a good amount of people, but then there were those that was like, hey, I didn't get hit with no email, I guess I'm okay. Well, Walmart would end up took them a couple of days, but at least before the end of the weekend, they pretty much got in contact with every single body that did have a pre-order for the Super NES Mini and told them your pre-order has been canceled, and a lot of people have just been pissed as a result of it. Now, Nintendo, they finally came on out with a statement earlier this week basically saying we are going to be releasing Super Nintendo Mini editions before the end of August, and there's going to be a lot in stock. It's going to be more than what had went down with the classic NES Mini. They're promising that many retailers are going to have them up for grabs. They're promising that even if you're not going to be able to pre-order, you will guaranteed be able to pick one up on launch day at your favorite retailer. So I hear that, I go, I hear you talking, but let's see what comes about, right? I actually was very fortunate when the NES Classic had came out last year. I had pre-ordered through Walmart, and it took me a couple of tries because I basically wasn't able to get mine, I want to say not until maybe October. And I actually had left it in shrink wrap, plastic, and its original packaging and all that. I never played it because I thought I was going to be able to make a pretty good payday off of it. And I did make a decent amount off of it, not like how it was when it was like really first like in demand. Because when it was like first in demand and it was like really, really scarce, units were selling for like $1,000 and up. One guy actually was able to sell his for like almost 10 grand. By the time I got my unit and I sat on it, which was a big mistake. I should have just tried to sell it off the break. Long story short, I spent $80, and I ended up being able to sell it for like about $350 after hacking it and putting about 800 games on there. So for this Super NES, there's a lot of cool ass games that I missed out playing on. I'm not selling my Super NES for nothing. I'm actually going to keep that bad boy, and I'm actually looking forward to when the Nintendo 64 Mini comes out. I know you guys are like, Lee, that ain't... No, trust me, it's happening. It's already in the works. In case you guys had missed it, out in Europe, Nintendo had already filed a couple of trademarks, and there were like a bunch of images they had submitted. One of the images was just the controller, a two-dimensional image of the Super NES controller, and then its predecessor, the NES controller. And there's a new submission claim that they put in there, which is the Nintendo 64 controller. So you know it's coming. So I can't stress it enough. For those of you that were really big fans of the Nintendo 64, you really want for Nintendo to release that next. You need to be representing, do everything you can to buy those Super Nintendo Mini editions. That's definitely going to prompt them to work diligently to put that N64 out there. And I'm telling you straight up, for the gamer in me, there's only one reason why I want an N64 Mini. I want it for WWF, No Mercy, and I definitely want it for WrestleMania 2000. And that's honestly just the start. I see my man Ryback is continuing to make the headlines, and once again he is in a position where he's trying to do some type of damage control. This go round he's responding to Dana Warrior, calling him a liar over a Ultimate Warrior story. Yeah, man, you gotta check out his latest episode of Conversations with the Big Guy. He had addressed a Twitter exchange that he had with Dana Warrior, widow of the Ultimate Warrior, about a match Ryback claimed might have been in the works. Now, for those of you that may have missed it, Dana White had passionately denied the claim on Twitter that Ryback was supposed to be in a match against the Ultimate Warrior, basically saying Ryback is lying to promote himself. And you hear this and you're going, what the fuck? So Ryback had to do some damage control, and he basically had said, and I quote, "We were asked a question by a fan if it was true about Ultimate Warrior Ryback at WrestleMania 30, which I thought I answered very truthfully, as I always have done here on this podcast, and shared a true story about Mark Carano sharing with me a very early preliminary sheet on WrestleMania, which is said Ryback versus Ultimate Warrior. I even mentioned that it could have been a big rib by the WWE. It could have been them just fucking with me, but that I was shown that. And then me and you, Pat Buck, discussed the possibilities of the match if it would have happened. Why would I make something like this up from several years ago if it wouldn't have made any benefit to do so if I made it up? I've met Dana several times and had always pleasant conversations with her and her two daughters, in which I will now share the encounter I had with her and her very kind words towards me from her husband, which don't need to be said here. That was my last meeting with her. Nothing I said was a lie, and she made it a point to call me a liar and that I was trying to cash in on somebody's grave, I guess. My whole thing is, and I believe the manager chimed in on this, I have no reason to lie about this for any reason. When was Dana Warrior and the manager of the Warrior hanging out backstage? When was the last time they hung out backstage at a WWE event? When I'm there every week being in the mix. So how would they know that had I seen a sheet or not? Again, Vince McMahon may have pondered this idea where this was something he was thinking about and that he wanted to do this, and who knows where they were in negotiations and whatnot. He may not have said anything to them. It could have been an idea he was just thinking about months ahead of time, and Mark had the sheets in there for different shows and whatnot, and he may have showed me that, whether he was screwing with me all made up. I never said this was going to happen. All I said was that it was shown to me, and this was the idea going around right about that time, possibly in Vince's head. So we discussed a possible matchup if it happened between he and I. So I don't understand how it makes me a liar or not true. They might have known nothing about it, but they didn't have to stop me if the idea was possibly going to happen. A possible idea. Ryback would also go on record claiming that WWE intentionally will leak out ideas of possible matches just to try to gauge fan reaction, and he believes that could have been the case for a Ryback Ultimate Warrior program at WrestleMania a few years back. So, I mean, when it's all said and done, do I believe in my heart of hearts Ryback basically had said all of these things just to try to put himself in a bigger spotlight, just to try to get himself to look like king shit, to try to make himself look like a big deal, because after all, he's the big guy? No, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that. And this is somebody that, honestly, what is Ryback now? Ryback's almost on his 50th episode of his podcast. I only listened to probably the first 5 episodes of his podcast just to really get a good idea of what he's about, how he's doing his show, his formatting and all that. But really I listened just to try to understand his side of the story as far as his exit from the WWE had went. And honestly, for the longest time, and look, this is respectfully my 2 cents from a distance, so I could really be wrong with the vibe I'm picking up, but my 2 cents from a distance, this is a guy that honestly just said, hey, look, man, I had all of these great ideas that I tried to pitch to Vince McMahon, Triple H, the WWE writers, and they never tried to meet me halfway. I was promised certain things that would happen in my career if I just continued to play nice, know my role, follow the rules, and when it's all said and done, promises were not made, and I got tired of promises not being upheld. That's really Ryback in a nutshell, and ultimately that's what made him decide, you know what, I don't need this. I think I can do better on my own. I think I can have a pretty successful career outside of the WWE. And you just look at everything that he's been able to do since he rolled out of the WWE. They say timing is everything. Well, he definitely has been able to strike while the iron's been hot. He jumped out there, put his own supplemental line, right? Got his own diet, nutrition stuff that's out there, supplemental stuff. That's doing well. He's got a book that's out. Say what you will, but there's not that many people that can say, hey, I was able to put out my own book. It's not a book that I'm selling in the back of my van or whatever either. Yeah, it's a book that's available at Amazon, physical copies, right? Amazon or Barnes & Noble and or Kindle or iTunes or whatever. There's not too many people that can brag that they wrote a book. And then he's his own boss. He's got his podcast that's doing pretty damn strong, right? Might not be a Jim Ross or a Vince Russo or a Jericho or a Colt Cabana, but it's got its own respected fan base. It's got its own respected cult following that gets bigger and bigger by the week. No, I don't personally feel that Ryback was saying some type of a lie just to try to hype himself up or make himself look really good. I legitimately believe, when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, that he did come across some type of a piece of paper or word got to him. Hey, I saw your name on a piece of paper with the Ultimate Warrior. I truly believe that this story is legit. And the fact that he said, hey, they could have been just ribbing on me, I believe that as well. I mean, when you just really coordinate things to the timing of Ultimate Warrior, when he first came back to the WWE and everything, he looked pretty bad. He looked pretty rough. I mean, when it's all said and done, I honestly do not believe in my heart of hearts that WWE had any intentions whatsoever of Ultimate Warrior, at least at that point. At that juncture, I don't believe that there was any plans on having Ultimate Warrior get in the ring to face off against somebody. I don't think that was in the cards. One thing at a time. I personally feel if Ultimate Warrior would have continued to live, we would have just continued to honestly see Warrior be involved in network specials, little behind the scenes type of documentary stuff, little interviews that way in some fashion. I definitely believe he probably would have been part of some pre-show, post-show things on the network. Maybe he would have popped up for an episode of Raw where they celebrated his birthday. I definitely could have seen some stuff like that playing out, but as far as him getting back into the ring, if he would have lived longer, if Vince McMahon and crew would have toyed around with the idea of him getting back in the ring, I feel when it would have came time for him to do a series of tests to pass, got to get the blood work done, got to pass the physical for WWE and all that, they would have came across whatever red flags and he would not have been cleared to wrestle. That is, in my heart of hearts, what I honestly believe. And everybody needs to remember that for the longest time, everybody was chanting Goldberg when Ryback was in the WWE, almost right on up until he got ready to roll out. No, I don't think he was lying. What do you guys think? Do you think Ryback was lying? Let me know. Sound off all throughout social media.
Enjoy all episodes of the RCWR Show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio.
Hey, I just wanted to apologize to you guys for the audio that you had heard there for like about 45 minutes. I was on location at the time and was experimenting with a new mic that I had got. If you all had saw the Awesome Con footage from, what was that, June, you know exactly the type of microphone / recorder I was using. And something that my girl had been pressing upon me for a couple of weeks now has been, well, hun, when you get so tired that you're not really interested in doing the show on Tuesdays, why not just take your recorder, and since you're at work and you've got that entire building to yourself, why don't you kick on back and hammer out some recordings? So for those of you that heard a lot of what was that, reverb, I guess we can say, is what you all were hearing, I'm gonna definitely be working out the kinks all in good time. So, you know, I had been teasing this off and on for a couple of weeks, but I definitely want to go on ahead and kind of make the announcement right now. As far as the future goes for the RCWR show when it comes to airing live on Tuesdays, I'm going to try to do my very, very best to see if we can continue to air live for you guys. But you all need to be prepared. There's probably going to be more times than usual that the show is honestly just going to be put up for downloads and on demand, meaning there's not going to be a live broadcast. Now, whenever a WWE pay-per-view goes down, a TNA pay-per-view or whatever, rest assured, I will definitely be on live. That is my commitment to you all. I'm not going to leave you all hanging like that. I mean, unless I am under the weather, that's pretty much, or I got an emergency, that's pretty much the only way I'm not going to do a Sunday live broadcast for you all. And of course, if there's any type of breaking news that goes down, something of significant importance that warrants coming on live immediately, I'll definitely do that for you all. But as far as Tuesdays go, you know, my new commitment to you all, if I can tell with the way my schedule, and I'll have a really good idea how my schedule is looking, and most importantly, how I'm feeling when it comes from Monday night going into Tuesday. And honestly, if it's a situation where I personally feel I can't do the show, I will make the announcement early in the afternoon on Tuesdays. And my best advice to you all, stay connected. Those of you that contribute via Patreon, you need to make sure that when you see those notifications, don't ignore it, because I'm saying something to you all. Go check it out. Make sure, if you're not doing so already, do it. Fucking follow me on Twitter, Facebook at the RCWR Show. I'm always keeping you guys abreast on everything that's going on. I got a lot of plans now that I'm really starting to kind of get the hang of the jobs, but I'm also starting to get the hang of, okay, this seems to be a good time to record. I got to tell you, when I was recording that past 45 minutes of audio you heard at work, I really loved it, to the point it was like, you know what, if I can just really get down the reverb stuff, I can do a lot more recordings this way. So I'm very happy to tell you guys, because I've been marinating on this for a couple of months now, really since summer began, and now that we're pretty much going into the fall. By the way, I've been checking out TNA. I really have been liking what I've been seeing of TNA as of late, despite the fact that they no longer have the Broken Hardys and so many other people. It's a long list of people that have left TNA, but I really have been liking the product that I've been seeing for the past couple of weeks, and it's just kind of gotten to that point where, honestly, there's not really an episode of Impact Wrestling I've missed. I just haven't really been talking about it. And going forward, I'm definitely going to be bringing back Impact Showdown. What is probably most likely going to happen is I'm going to be coordinating Impact Showdown coming back in September, when we get ready to launch our app. There will be an app that'll be available for iOS, also on Android devices, and that's pretty much going to be the only way you're going to be able to check out Impact Showdown. That's basically going to be a app exclusive. That's pretty much how I'm going to be operating. Maybe a week after the fact, I may release it on YouTube and other platforms. Maybe I'll operate that way, but for the time being, I'm definitely going to make it be all about the app. So I can't wait to get my hands dirty and start diving into that. Just trying to figure out if there's any other topics I want to get into with regards to the show. I think that's pretty much it. But as far as Patreon goes, patreon.com/RCWR Show. Once again, patreon.com/RCWR Show. Sign up for as little as $5. You guys are going to be able to access exclusive content. I've got to sit down. I have been teasing it and I've yet to do it. I got to roll out some content. I'm definitely behind on content. I'm probably going to be, depending on how my schedule is looking for during the day on Friday. I'm probably going to be pumping out some more content that I'll be uploading to the Patreon site, because I know we got the Patreons that's been waiting patiently. And by the way, not this episode, but definitely next week's episode, once I see whose payments have cleared, we're going to do another round of Patreon shout outs. So look forward to doing that with you all. Hey, Sting made a little bit of news. He recently has been playing around with Facebook Live on his official Facebook page, and his comments were pretty short, very on point, but definitely newsworthy nonetheless. And during that Facebook live stream, he said the following, and I quote, "I can still wrestle. I can still wrestle. I'm just not going to." And as many of you all recall, he worked his last match September 20th of 2015, where he was defeated by Seth Rollins at WWE Night of Champions. He had suffered multiple neck injuries in the bout that pretty much were career-ending, and when asked if he would be open to an on-air role on WWE television, similar to what Kurt Angle's doing right now, he responded, "Yeah, I might consider something like that. Good to see Kurt back, by the way." So, look, it doesn't get any better as far as a retirement goes. It doesn't get any better than being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And anybody that has seen that Sting Into the Light DVD can definitely back me up on this. Sting it was like he found the fountain of youth. It was almost like he was kicking himself in the ass going, man, I really wish I didn't listen to my gut instincts and that I would have came to the WWE a lot sooner. That's the vibe that he genuinely gave off, and he was really ecstatic. It was almost like he became 10 years younger again. Like he was in his early 40s again or whatever. I won't say 30s, but the way he was going out there, great physical shape too, mind you. I mean, he looked better at that time than half of the WWE roster, give or take to a certain degree. But he went in there with this enthusiasm, and I was holding out. There was a part of me that, even though I felt that him and Taker were pretty old, that they were past their prime, there was actually that part of me that was just from a storyline standpoint was very curious, very interested to see how a matchup with The Undertaker would go down. And it definitely sucks that we're now never going to see that matchup happen. Why Sting would say something like this, I have the slightest clue, but I love the fact that he said, I'm not going to. I mean, let's really home in on that just to kind of back it up. He said, and I quote, I can still wrestle. I can still wrestle. I'm just not going to. Now, what I'd like to know is, and hopefully somebody will get the opportunity to sit down and interview the Stinger, but he's not going to. Is he not going to because he is taking the advice of his doctors, his wife, family? Have they really sat him down and been like, look, it's just not worth the risk? You got to think about long-term wise. You really don't need it now. You can put it behind you. Just stick to the conventions and all that. So is that where his mind is right now? Because I got to tell you, I'm a little bit baffled by that statement, because it seems like such a tease. Now, if you ask me straight up, Lee, do you think Sting is ever going to get back into the squared circle? No, I don't think he's ever going to. But if there was ever a time and a way to say, hey, I appreciate everybody that's been keeping me in their thoughts, that's been keeping me in their prayers, constantly been putting my name out there in rotation since I've come to the WWE. I know there's so many of you guys that would love to see me get back in that squared circle, whether I pick up a victory or I lose. There's just a lot of you all, especially you newer fans, that would love to see me in the ring. I really appreciate the thoughts. I can't tell you how much it really means to me to be able to be part of the WWE finally after all of these years, to be a part of the WWE family. You all have just been able to take me in. It's overwhelming, and I'm very appreciative of all of you, but I just really want to set the record straight, which is for those of you waiting patiently for me to come back into the ring for one more match or some type of a dream match. I can tell you just off the break a handful of people that I would love to face in the WWE. I continue to watch the product. I know everything that's been going on right now. I'm familiar with all the story arcs. I would love to face so many great guys, whether it's a Braun Strowman or a Dean Ambrose, or maybe even an Apollo Crews or a Brock Lesnar, or Sami Zayn or AJ Styles or Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. There's so many great talents in the company right now. Shinsuke Nakamura, so many talents I would love to get in there and face, because the talent in me, the gift that's been bestowed upon me is still there. But Father Time and injuries have gotten the best of me, and what would be the sweetest reward for you all that I would be able to provide for you all, the gratification of going in there and putting on a classic matchup for you all, the rewards, although it'd be awesome, the risk is just too high, and I just am not willing to embrace that. I'm just not willing to go there. So I really hope you all understand. That would have really been the time to really solidify, put the capsule on it, and that's it. But the fact that he continues to kind of string this along the way that he's stringing it along, it is very easy. Don't get it twisted. I'm not bashing Sting in any type of way. I'm simply looking at it from the standpoint of the fans that continuously say, oh, he's going to wrestle. He's going to wrestle again. He's going to do it again. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. What he did here with the Facebook stream, I think it just added inadvertently more fuel to fans that believe Sting will wrestle again. I honestly do not believe he's going to wrestle again. I honestly don't believe that. I know a lot of people are bringing up his record. Hey, 2 wins, 2 losses. That ain't really nothing to be impressive about. You got some people that believe he still has that one more match in him, and that maybe he's going to take on The Undertaker, and that pretty much is going to serve as both Undertaker and Sting's retirement match. So, I mean, you ask me straight up, honestly, would I like to see Sting back in the WWE? Yes, but how I want to see Sting back in the WWE is very different from how a lot of people want to see Sting back in the WWE. My version of Sting back in the WWE, I want to see him be a part of more WWE Network specials. That's what I want to see. If WWE ever decided to bring back Night of Champions, Clash of Champions or whatever, or Bash at the Beach or whatever, I would love to see Sting be part of a pre-show, post-show panel, something of that nature. I would love to see a situation occur where when it comes to network specials, Sting is part of those. Maybe he can do an exclusive one-on-one interview with somebody. There are still tons of DVDs of which you got to get Sting in the hot seat and get him talking, right? I would love to hear Sting talk about his time in WCW during the Monday Night War. So just picture that. Imagine if they did a Monday Night War 3.0 version and basically get it from Sting's perspective. Or imagine if they did a Monday Night War 3.0 edition, right? And they basically went to the Paul Heyman. They went to the Stinger. They went to Diamond Dallas Page, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, AJ Styles. They basically go to practically all of the guys that at one point were in WCW currently in good graces with the WWE again, right? Or just they happen to be associated with WWE now. It'd be really badass to see all of these guys kind of come back and really talk about their time in WCW. I would love to see something like that on the network. I definitely would love to see something like that for sale on DVD. I would eat it up. I would definitely buy that. But I would like to see WWE utilize the Stinger in that type of fashion. Don't just give him that Legends contract for nothing. Really freaking capitalize on it. So that's honestly what I would like to see, and I think in due time it will happen. There's just so many other things going on in the company right now, but I believe in my heart of hearts that's ultimately what's going to be playing about. And in a more interesting note, it looks like WWE is planning on doing some more cutbacks the way that it's looking right now. There is just a big old slew of cancellations right now coming about with more WWE network programs. And as probably a lot of you all have noticed, WWE has cut back on pyros at their shows. And the way it's looking right now, WWE is promising everyone that they're going to have bigger profits in 2017 than they had in 2016. And the way it's looking right now, they're not even anywhere close. So take last year's profits, for example. They were about $30 million. And this year, they're about halfway through. And, you know, they got a little ways to go. And it's believed right now to be the reason why, in part, they're no longer doing pyros at the WWE shows. And a lot of shows on the WWE network have been getting canceled, basically all in the name of lowering the production costs. So when you look at that, you also factor in the slow growth of the WWE network. I don't have the quarters numbers in front of me right now. We'll dive into it a little bit more on next week's show. But I think they only increased their network growth by like about maybe 6%. Or something to that effect. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So I mean that's not what they were expecting. So to only get an increase by like 6%, yeah. And then not to mention the pay-per-views, 2 pay-per-views a month, that really hasn't been helping. They really have not been increasing revenue, but at the same time, it's like, at least for the foreseeable future, they're not going to just eliminate a pay-per-view so they can just do one a month. It doesn't look like that's going to be on the table anytime soon. But this is, when you look at the grander scale of things, for a lot of you guys that's been wondering what's going on with the United Kingdom show. And I know eventually there was supposed to be like a WWE Tokyo show or whatever like that. That's why those things haven't even launched yet, is because WWE is trying to do their very best to free up X amount of money that they can get right now and long-term wise eventually launch those type of shows. And I would expect on top of these cutbacks that there's probably going to be more WWE releases forthcoming, to the point, in case you all had missed it, a WWE NXT star was released. Ho Ho Lun, he had founded the Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation. As you all recall, he signed with the WWE back in 2006. Correction. Wow, I was way... No, I got to put a correction out there. 2016, I apologize. And he had participated in the Cruiserweight Classic. Last time he was on television went back to June. He was defeated by the Velveteen Dream. That was the last time he was on the air. I wasn't even aware that this guy was still part of the WWE roster until I heard the news that he was released. I mean, honestly, I know a lot of people are like, ho, what? You know, Susie Q, what? Ho, dingalings, ho, what? Ho-hos, what? Say what? So, I would expect that there's probably going to be a lot more cuts, though, coming in all seriousness. I got to check out the entire transcript, but colleagues over at Busted Open, they interviewed Paige and Alberto Del Rio, aka Alberto El Patron, as they had wanted to set the record straight on the altercation that had went down at the airport a couple of weeks back. Couple of highlights that's coming about so far. Paige, she had commented on an exact return date to the WWE. She had said that she just got a CT scan and a checkup, and she's waiting to hear back from the doctor. But as far as it stands right now, she does not have a exact return date yet. Also, what was revealed during that interview, Alberto El Patron, he said that, and this should be a no-brainer, that he will be coming back to GFW. He is still under suspension right now, but that he has talked with GFW officials, and they know the date that he's going to be coming back for more television tapings. He was not at liberty to discuss the exact date, but he did say he will be back working with the company in the immediate future. So I have to wait and kick back and really check out this transcript. I'm really hoping that these guys over at Busted Open actually went there and they brought up the type of questions that should be asked, such as, okay, well, do you understand why the fans are so concerned about you guys when they see and hear of these type of incidents like what took place at the airport? I really, really hope that they go for the jugular and it's not really a situation where it's footsie, because the last thing I hate is footsie interviews. To the point, I definitely need to touch upon this before we get ready to wrap it up for this episode at least. So you all recall one of Kurt Angle's ex-girlfriends, what's her name? Rhaka Khan, aka Trenisha Biggers. Well, she had made headlines, what was that, like about 2 weeks ago, maybe almost 3 weeks ago, with all of that stuff she had rehashed about Kurt Angle going back to 2009 when she was in the relationship she was with him. I'm not going to go over the whole spiel, but I'm sure a lot of you all, majority of you all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're a newer listener and you're not really sure what's going about, Google is your best friend. You can easily get caught up to speed that way. So she has just, and I've been paying attention to her Twitter timeline and just been seeing all of the stuff that she's been putting out there, because I actually had befriended her on Twitter, really so I can get a glimpse into her life, get a glimpse into her interactions with the wrestling community. And she is just pretty much going out of her way at Triple H, at Stephanie, at Vince, at Kurt, at Impact Wrestling, at Dutch Mantel. She is just hitting up everybody and is basically reminding them of a Kurt Angle that she knew of intimately back in 2009. Now, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm not sure how many of y'all had followed the post that I put up on Twitter and also on Facebook, but I basically had called her out on it, and I sent her a message. I said, hey, Trenisha, Lee Sanders here of the RCWR Show. I've been at this since 2011. I believe in keeping it honest, insightful, interactive. I have a really good track record of delivering really solid interviews, and honestly, I'd like the opportunity to interview, or at least just ask you this question and have you go on record, which is, what do you say to those in the wrestling community that feel that what you're doing right now by bringing up something that had happened with Kurt Angle going back almost 10 years ago, mind you, you are doing this out of jealousy, you are doing this out of spite. Kurt Angle has admitted, Dixie Carter has admitted, Karen Jarrett has admitted, so many people have admitted that right before Kurt Angle left the WWE, and definitely while he was in TNA Wrestling, man was struggling with some serious demons. He was not in the best state of mind. definitely not in the best state of physical health. It's obvious that he has been on some type of road to recovery, and he's trying to do what he can to straighten up his life for the better. What do you say to those people that feel as though you're operating the way you're operating out of jealousy, out of spite? And I wasn't expecting her to follow me. If anything, I was expecting her to hit the block button, and that was going to be the end of it. What did she do? She actually ended up following me on Twitter. So I sent her a private message and I said, hey, thanks for befriending me. I don't know if you saw the message, but I would love to kick back, do an interview with you, no holds barred, reminisce about this stuff with Kurt Angle. Find out about any latest projects that you're doing right now. Really try to get the record straight. And I told her, I said, hey, look, I'm not like some of these other podcasters, radio show guys that's out there that's basically going to do this interview with you and then charge the listeners $1.99, $5 or whatever just so I can get their money and they can listen to the audio. Like, no, we don't operate that way. The episodes are made available for free for people to check out on demand and or on the downloads. Honestly, how I make money off of my shows is with my advertisers. I sell advertising slots. Every time I take an ad break, that's pretty much how I get paid. And I'm proud to say not $1 of the money I make from advertisers goes into my pocket. It goes right back out into the shows. We got bandwidth that we got to take care of, website we got to try to maintain, equipment, got to make sure we're staying on top of equipment for the show, things of that nature. So she was like, oh yeah, well, I can do an interview right now. And I told her, now look, typically when me and or Tammy, because sometimes Tammy will act as my PR, and she just has a way of talking to people, and she's pretty well connected, a large part because of what she does with her full-time day job, but also because of the type of work that she's successfully been able to do with Mary Kay on the side. I mean, networking at its finest. I mean, she's almost there as far as being a DIQ and all that, director and all that. So whenever one of us reaches out to a guest for an interview, we give them the bullet points of what our show is all about, how long we've been at it. We give them show listening stats, downloads, all that. And we also tell them, hey, we can do recorded, pre-recorded stuff available. We let it all be known. So I'm at work expecting her to say, well, yeah, let's do something Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, or honestly, I'm not free until blah, 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 blah. So she hits me right back as soon as I sent her the email. Keep in mind, I'm at my day job. And she goes, oh, well, I can do something right now. And I told her, I said, well, respectfully, I'm actually at work right now. There's really no way I can do something right here and now. I don't even have my equipment with me. It's like you got to keep in mind that when we sit down to do the interview, I need to have access to my equipment because it needs to sound as very professional as possible. It doesn't need to sound like amateur using some type of worn out freaking microphone or whatever, or he's talking on the telephone or whatever. That might be great for the guests, but I like to get really good sound quality, not just from my end, but I definitely like to get really good sound quality out of the person I'm interviewing, right? So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'd like to, but I don't have access to my equipment, blah, 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 blah. How about blah, blah, blah? So she left me hanging. She didn't get back to me until like the next day. And I told her my work schedule. I said, hey, it just so happens I'm off from my day job on Tuesday. I'm actually right in front of my equipment. If you want to try to do something, let me know. I'm free right on up until 5 o'clock in the evening. After that, sadly, I have to go on ahead and I have to start prepping for the show. And I actually was prepping for the show. I did hammer out. You heard the first half of the show for those of you that had listened, but for those of you that maybe are listening to this as an excerpt on Epic, basically I recorded like the first hour of the show, and I was like expecting her to say, yeah, I'll come on the show live. So she doesn't hit me up, I don't think, until I think it was a little after 5. I'm not really sure. And she's like, oh, I can do it right now. And this was a red flag for me. She said to me that she wanted to talk off the record, and that she wanted to, you know what? Let me not paraphrase. Let me get what she said. Let me get what she said verbatim, because I actually have her phone number. Believe it or not. So I have her phone number. I can actually pull up the text message here. And let me see if I can retrieve. Oh, no. I can't retrieve it now. Wait. Here we go. Yes. There she is. Let's see. No, that's not it. So let me go to Twitter. Okay. So the last thing that she said to me, she said, sorry, I'm just winding down finally, getting the kiddos to bed. I believe I included my phone number. If not, let me know. You can call anytime if it's not too late to make arrangements and speak off the record beforehand. So, it's kind of like the way I've been doing my show since 2011 is keeping it honest, keeping it insightful, and keeping it interactive. I can proudly tell you guys that I have not ever had not one guest, say to me when I reached out to them for a interview / appearance on the show, I've never had a guest say, well, I want to speak off the record before we do the interview. I've never had that. All the guests I have had, I pretty much tell them. Tammy will back me up on this. Tammy, my girlfriend, also serves as my PR. She has even called guests and been like, is there anything you want us to not bring up? Is there anything you want us to not get into? And 99.9% of the guests I have had on my show, they always say, no, honestly, if there's something I'm not really interested getting into, you'll know. I'll throw a nice little polite, diversion out there. You'll be able to pick it up. You'll know, trust me. And and then on the flip side to that, nah, man, it's all good. Ask me any and everything. I'm here, man. Let's have some fun. Let's rock. I ain't holding nothing back. Okay, so my advice to Trinisha is, if you are really serious about setting the record straight, if you are really serious about getting your point across, getting your thoughts out there with this time dating back to 2009, if you really want to go back and revisit that chapter in your life again, you are more than welcome to appear on my show. But make no mistake about it, as far as talking off the record beforehand, I have never operated that way. Now, if it's a situation where you're really trying to get to know me, you're trying to get an idea of what I'm about, my sincerity, things of that nature, I can't read your mind. You got to let me know how you're coming at me, because I can only tell you from reading that how it kind of comes off, and it kind of comes off to me like you're trying to figure out how I'm going to exactly be coming at you. So almost kind of like pre-screening, and I've never done pre-screening before. Very proud of that. Never done pre-screening before. I've never been in a position where I've sent questions to people beforehand. Never did that. Never did that whatsoever. Never will. So if you ask me straight up, my 2 cents from a distance, I feel this is an individual that honestly, sincerely really cared, had strong feelings, dare I say, was really in love, truly in love with Kurt Angle, and things played out the way that it did with that respected relationship. And Lord only knows where that relationship would have continued had Kurt Angle stayed on the path that he was on. And they both might not be alive today, quite honestly. And the fact that so many years has gone by, and the fact that she continues to bring this up. I mean, you look at her Twitter timeline, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It really kind of comes off as a person that can't let things go. Now, if you want to say, hey, I'm using this incident that had occurred when I dated this person to empower me and empower me in such a way where I'm having a very positive impact and influence on other people in their lives that have dealt with some type of a domestic partner. They've been in a domestic abuse relationship, verbally, physically, a combination. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But go there. It's okay to go there. But don't also use it as an opportunity of a smear campaign to at Impact Wrestling, at WWE, at Stephanie, at Vince, at True. There's no reason to do all that, because that alone, when you operate that way, it makes you come off spiteful. It makes you come off jaded. You need to be the bigger person than that. All this stuff about, I have saved audio, I've got pictures, I've got screenshots, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? When it counted the most and he was having the problems that he was having, why didn't you put all of this out there? My mom used to always say to me, when people see that you're finally starting to turn your life around for the better, you're finally going into a direction of positivity, the people that envy you the most are the ones that's going to be looking to latch on to you, and if they can't have what you have, they're going to do any and everything possible to sabotage what you have, because they're that jealous and they're going to do it out of spite. That is what she told me straight up, and that stuck in my head. She said it to me when I was really, really young. So, for me, the way she comes off, it's just really spiteful. Look, I've been in situations, hell, guys, girls, we all have, but I definitely have been in situations where I don't need to elaborate, but I've been in positions where I've had an ex-girlfriend or two burn me hard, whether it was got a couple of $100 or couple of $1,000 out of me, or I got hustled that way, or I was cheated on, you name it. And yeah, was I pissed? Fuck yeah, pissed to the extreme, punching holes through the wall, fist bleeding, all that shit, trying to figure out, what the fuck, what did I do to deserve this bullshit, right? Holding a grudge on that person for a good minute, but I learned, what, life is too short. I can't be having all my time and energy consumed on how this particular individual had did me, and it basically dictates how I live my lifestyle. I can't, because that's just giving them too much power. The best thing I can do is just take a step back and say, man, that fucking sucked. Yeah, I'm pissed, I'm hurting, but you know what? I gotta flip it real quick. I gotta look at the positive sides to things, the positive side to life, and I gotta keep the shit moving along. I gotta keep it moving along, because I gotta stay sane. I gotta live for life. So my advice to Trinisha Biggers is, honestly, let it go. My 2 cents from a distance, let it go. I see the great stuff that you're doing in your community. Continue to stay at it. You seem like a person that is very biblical, that is holy and everything. God teaches us that, we're supposed to forgive. We might not forget, but we're definitely supposed to forgive. There's been a lot of mistakes that I've made. People that I've dated, there was a lot of significant mistakes that they made, and they burned me the wrong way. What was initially anger, pain, eventually I felt sympathetic, and I kept them in my thoughts, in my prayers, and hoped for the better for them and their life. And I just honestly kept it moving along. When honestly, what really should be happening right now is, hey, as somebody that used to date Kurt Angle, Trinisha Biggers, just have to say that it really comes off. Kurt has really turned his life around, and I really hope that he's done so for the better. I wish he could have done it with me when we were still dating, but sometimes things play out the way that it is. Hey, Kurt, continue to keep your head up, stay positive. The fact that she's not going in that direction, just when you just really start adding everything up, it's just really a red flag. But I mean, Trinisha, if you're really serious, you're more than welcome to come on the show. But the way I've been doing my show since 2011, keeping it honest, keeping it insightful, keeping it interactive, I've never talked off the record beforehand. I never operated that way. So you got to come at me and you got to let me know straight up what exactly you hope to gain from speaking off the record beforehand. Because if it's just really a situation where you're trying to get an idea where my head is at as far as the lining of questioning I'm going to be putting out there at you, that kind of comes to me. It comes off to me as though you're trying to be very cautious about who you talk to and what exactly is going to be said, so that you can, I don't know, maybe come out of this the way you're hoping that you can come out of it. And just to wrap this up, I'm not one that's, I got you. I don't operate that way. Whatever comes to mind, I speak from the heart. I ask the questions that's from the heart. With sincerity, with conviction, and pretty much we go from there. And that's how we've always had it really be fun and insightful conversations with people. So I don't know if I'm really overanalyzing it, and I know her Twitter account is private, but I'm telling you, and out of respect to her, I'm not going to take screenshots and all of that other stuff, but trust me, believe in me, when you see a lot of the stuff that's on her timeline and everything, factor in everything that I just said, you can't really help but question this person's motives. If honestly they're jealous of the newfound faith and rebound that Kurt Angle has been able to do with his life, and she's on the outside looking in, maybe wishing she was part of that. And other than that, boys and girls, that is pretty much it. I'm going to go on ahead, stick a fork in it. We are done. I want to take this time out to thank those of you for checking out this edition of the RCWR Show. We will be doing this for you all again next week, so make sure you stay connected to me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr at the RCWR Show. Be my Patreon. Check out exclusive content at patreon.com/RCWR Show. Patreon members, I will be pumping out some more audio recordings. I am waiting to hear what's going to be happening with my work schedule for Friday morning. So if it's a situation where I don't have to go in Friday morning, I'll pretty much have the daytime to myself. And if that's the case, I'll definitely kick on back probably later tonight, do some recording so that I can drop it on Patreon first thing Friday morning, afternoon for you guys. But yeah, stay connected with me on the social media platforms. Remember, if you love the show, continue to spread the word, support it, man. Check it out. Add it to your favorites and all that on iTunes, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker. Just use the keywords, the RCWR Show. And unless things change otherwise, your next edition of the RCWR Show will be coming at you all Tuesday night of August 8th, 2017 at 10 p.m. Eastern. Special shout out to all of our sponsors. I told you guys we're going to be having a big old slew of advertisers working with us for the next batch of episodes, so make sure you do check them out. Support us by checking them out, and if you can, support them as they are doing their part. When it's all said and done, they're helping us continue to keep the shows free for you guys to check out on a weekly basis. So big shout out to all of our advertisers / sponsors for this episode. That is going to do it, boys and girls. Wishing all of y'all to be safe, most importantly be kind to one another. I will see you next go round. Adios.